Hi, my name's Julie Anderson, and this is Deepak Saini.
Hi, Julie. How are you today?
Good, how are you, Deepak?
I'm doing fantastic.
So Deepak is a health, performance, and longevity coach, and he is going to talk about common health myths, dispelling common health myths. So Deepak, jump in, help us out.
Sure. So this is part two of the series. I don't know how many there are going to be. We'll see how we go. But if you missed part one, the really juicy, sensational ones, then look for it on either of our platforms. It's on my website, it's on my YouTube channel, etc., Facebook, what have you. So I thought I'd start off with today as a myth. I think it's slowly changing, but I guess essentially the myth is juice counts as a serving of fruit. And a lot of parents tend to believe that, or maybe they just want to believe that so they can get their kids to eat something or what have you. But juice does not count as a serving of fruit. When you take you isolate, okay, let's assume it's real juice. First of all, let's make that assumption. It's real juice. So you've taken all the fiber, all the the flesh out of the whatever the fruit may be, an orange, apple, what have you, and just have the concentrated liquid. Then it's super sweet, right? So it's like the sugar content is way high. So the way I like to put it is if you're just drinking juice, again, assuming it's real juice, even if you're just drinking juice, you might as well just be mainlining sugar right into your bloodstream. You're going to get a huge insulin spike, and then all the resulting downstream effects of that. There's nothing wrong with eating fruit. I say fruit is nature's dessert. So there's nothing wrong with eating fruit if you eat in its whole component. Eat the whole apple, eat the whole orange, what have you. Everyone likes people like, freshly, who does that anymore? I don't know if anyone does like freshly squeezed orange juice. Like, you're missing out on all that good fiber that we all need. That's bad enough, or it's quite, spike your insulin levels, as I mentioned. But what most people think is like juice. It's not really juice. Juice from concentrate, it's just a ton and ton of added sugar and all these things, like gummy bears and all these sort of treats, especially for kids, marketed to kids, contains real juice. And we talked about it in sort of part one of this series about food labeling. We got into a little bit and how they're so misleading, and what companies are allowed to, the government allows them to get away with, and saying, essentially, if you take a real orange, take out, get rid of all the fiber and just have the juice, and put a little bit of that in with some high fructose corn syrup and whatever else and all these other chemicals and blah blah blah, but you have this little component that actually eventually, some way down the line, came from a real orange or apple, whatever the case may be. It's like, contains real fruit juice. So it's so mismarketed, right? So, and I know I've seen this with clients that I work with family members. It's like, well, it has real juice, this is real juice. I'm like, no, you want a real juice, like cut an orange and eat the whole thing. You're getting real juice. Or apple, or eat an apple, or eat a watermelon, or what have you. So juice is not a serving of fruit, is essentially myth number one.
Awesome.
Number two, eat less salt. We've all heard this one. Salt is going to kill you, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Well, first of all, highly processed foods, which unfortunately, we talked about before, depending on the statistics you listen to, anywhere from 40 to 60% of the people are overweight or obese. Somewhere between 50 and 60% of the people are either pre-diabetic or diabetic. So the cause of that is highly processed foods that we have in our society. Those, to maintain a long shelf life, etc., they need a lot of preservatives, salt being one of them. Sort of your usually your plain table salt, one that's usually bleached, so it has a uniform color. That's just a nice white that we're always used to. So there's a couple parts to this. So number one, if all you're getting is table salt or sodium, tons and tons and tons amount of that, then I would agree. I would agree to a degree that yes, you need to watch your salt intake. Now, in our household, and I would recommend for many people, get a quality sea salt. whether it be a pink Himalayan, um, a Celtic sea salt. One brand that I like specifically, I won't mention the brand, but where it comes from, it's mined from a sort of underground lake or ocean that is no longer an ancient ocean that's no longer around anymore. So they mine it from underground. Very pure, has tons of other minerals. That's the key thing. When you have like plain table, you're not getting other minerals like manganese and iron. Like, we're talking trace amounts. You can't you're not going to meet your requirements by having these trace minerals in that salt. But that's what I like to have. And again, the amount of salt you need also is going to really depend on your activity level, how hot it is. When you work out, you sweat, you're losing these minerals, you're losing salt. Some people who do a lot of training in warm weather. And Julie, maybe you might have experienced this too when you used to do triathlons and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
When you actually like have salt.
Yes.
When you've been sweating so much, you kind of have like salt on your face. So okay, in that case, you might be having too much salt if that's the case in your diet. But two, you've certainly lost salt and you need to replenish it. So me personally, again, we only use a good quality sea salt, and I'll sprinkle it on certain foods. I don't do it on everything. I think this is just my personal belief, but if you need to add salt to all your food, there's probably something else wrong. Maybe your taste buds, maybe if someone's a smoker or something, you maybe desensitized your taste buds or et cetera. But if you need to put salt in it on everything, then I would question, like, well, how are you preparing that? How are you seasoning otherwise? A lot of other seasonings give you a nice flavor. You don't need to add salt anyway. But so there's very few things that I actually add salt to. The other thing too is there is a genetic component to this. Depending on your genes, and forgive me, I can't remember what the SNP is for it, but some people actually require a high amount of salt to function properly. And remember, our bodies need salt to operate at optimal levels. Is just keeping that fine balance. And it's not just sodium. It's a balance between our sodium, calcium, and potassium. You want a nice balance of all of those. And that's why sometimes especially for athletes, you find those salt sticks or those type of products. There's always a balance of those three minerals. But there's a genetic component. Some people actually need to have more salt, and some people be the opposite. They actually can't handle salt. So this just sort of blanket statement of like too much salt is bad for you is really, there's too many components. Like many health things, it's very nuanced. So as again, blanket statement, I would say, that is a myth, but there are some nuance there for sure. I'll move on to the next one. Oh, this one, yeah, this one really gets me.
I'm so excited for you to address this one.
Yeah, sure. Diet soda is better for you than regular soda. And I don't know where this started. This is all a marketing ploy. Probably back in like the 70s, early 80s, as we've had these that we talked about in part one, where changing advertising, marketing, et cetera, and these policies put into place to make people healthier. But then the opposite was happening. People were getting unhealthier. They were getting heavier. They're getting fatter. So it's like, oh, well, your regular soda has X calories. So we'll come up with a diet soda that has less calories. So again, basing on this other myth that we talked about, that calories is the most important thing for health or for weight loss or what have you. So how do they make it diet? They take the sugar out. What do they replace it with? Right? You take sugar out. There's no fat in a cola. Or very, minimal. So if you take the sugar out, it's going to taste like crap, right? So what do they put in? Well, they put in chemicals, artificial sweeteners, and stuff to give it that sort of sweet taste, or trying to mimic the same type of taste that the original cola had. So diet. So people are thinking like, oh, diet, this is good for me, and they're drinking it. So does it have less calories? Sure. Again, I question, I don't just question it. Like, calories it's not a simple equation of just calories. It's more nuanced than that. So you're taking sugar out, you're adding chemicals in. So you're ingesting just a ton of these chemicals. So, okay, yeah, maybe you have less calories, but now you have all this other side effects of all these artificial sweeteners and that sort of thing. And they've gotten better over time, but some of these have been, in the early days that they've now known to be like neurotoxins. So they're trying to solve one problem by creating potentially a worse problem. So I mean, I don't advocate drinking your calories or drinking your food or what have you. So I don't believe in pop or sugary drinks at all, especially if you have health concerns or weight loss goals. But if you're going to do it, drink regular soda than diet soda. So that's one I yeah, I could talk. I've seen Kyle say I used to work when I was going many years ago, and I used to going to university, and I trying to put myself through university. I worked in restaurants and bars and that sort of thing, and I have countless stories of people and diet soda, and sort of the good intentions gone bad. So
Mm-hmm.
I'll move on to that. Unless sorry, Julie, I haven't even given you a chance if you have any questions.
No, that's good. I love it. I'm so glad that you said that last bit about it's like if you don't advocate having regular soda, but if you're going to have it, it's actually better than having the diet soda. Like just to hammer that point home that the diet isn't good for you. That's awesome.
And I guess that would also go to, I think there's now, I have to admit I don't pay much attention to this. I skip that whole aisle at the grocery store.
Yeah.
But they have like all these flavored waters and stuff, and now diet flavored water. And it's like it's
vitamin water. Yeah.
Yeah, that is another marketing thing, or smart water.
Yeah.
And this kind of stuff. It's like just drink water. Just
right.
drink a quality water. Now,
right.
We're not going to get to that in this, but if somebody has a question, like hit me up afterwards. There are differences in the type of water, and I could do a whole hour on just water quality and that sort of thing. There is a lot of problem with the local municipal water supplies in many places in the world, for sure. Definitely even in North America, our big modern industrialized cities, there are problems with the water. But when in doubt, you're going to be better off with water. So that's all I'll say about that one. Here's another one. Avoid coffee. Coffee is bad for you. I don't know where this one came from. So I got a couple notes here. Yeah. So total myth. Science has proven their coffee is beneficial. There's studies that come out, I swear, like weekly or monthly for sure, showing the benefits of coffee. Coffee has a ton of polyphenols, antioxidants. It's very, very good for you in the right dose for you. So very individualized again, very nuanced. There is a genetic marker for that, for caffeine metabolism. It's usually when people say coffee is bad for you, it's the caffeine that we're talking about here. So some people are fast caffeine metabolizers, which means they can drink coffee like crazy, 5-6 cups, late into the evening, etc. No issues whatsoever. I've done genetic testing. I'm a slow caffeine metabolizer. So what does that mean for me? So basically what it means is, and I've done lots of testing, with my sleep and etc. So what that means for me is I can stick to 2 cups, 2 sort of regular size cups early, like before 9 o'clock. So in the morning, and no problems. If I have even a 3rd cup, even if it's in the morning, still, let's say before 10 o'clock, it affects my sleep that evening because my half-life of digesting it is too long. So there's still caffeine in my system when I'm trying to go to sleep, 12, 14 hours later, whatever the case may be. If I have a coffee, let's go out for dinner with friends, let's grab a cappuccino after dinner or something, you're staying up maybe a bit later, that type of thing. If I have a coffee then, I have no problem going to sleep. I can have a coffee and go right to sleep. That is not a problem. But my quality of sleep is just terrible. It's just absolutely terrible. So it's very individualized. Right. So it's very simple. You don't even have to do, I think you get your 23andMe or any of these, very low and expensive genetic testing, sort of the base ones to figure that out. But I mean, I think intuitively people know that, whether they handle coffee or not. The other thing with coffee, sometimes where it maybe gets a bad rap, is people say I get the jitters and that sort of thing. Well, it could also be the quality of the coffee. A lot of coffee, almost essentially, it's very hard just the way they produce and transport coffee to not have molds or that toxins sort of built on them, depending on how they're harvested and stored and transported, et cetera. That being said, there are better beans than other beans, et cetera. So and one of those things too where quality and paying for quality probably matters for that sort of jittery thing. And there's also compounds or other supplements. You can take the edge off. If you're really edgy on coffee, you can do that to minimize it. Essentially, coffee is, I view coffee in the right dose for you as a health food, as a superfood.
Yeah.
It's just managing it
That's right.
for you, and it doesn't hurt too sometimes. And we build a tolerance for it. When you don't have a coffee, or maybe you're traveling, or whatever the case may be, where you're not in your regular schedule, and you get that caffeine withdrawal. If you don't have a coffee, it's like by 10, 11 o'clock. You normally have one by 7 or 8 or whatever, and then it's later you get that caffeine withdrawal. Caffeine is essentially a drug. It's the world's oldest drug, probably, or right up there. But what I was going to say is that it doesn't hurt every once in a while, like maybe every once a quarter, every couple months. Do a 1 or 2 week reset where you just drink decaf or a tea or something. Where maybe you still get some caffeine to sort of trickle in that feeling, but it just so your body gets a chance to sort of reset. Mm-hmm. I personally don't find that I have a problem with that, so I don't do that reboot or that reset. But some people that are a little bit more sensitive, it might be something to try there. One other thing too is when I'm talking about coffee, it's a health food, it's a superfood. I'm talking black coffee, people. I'm not talking about the super duper frappo macchiato, right, unicorn sprinkles, right, and leprechaun tears things at some of these places, right? Those are just calorie bombs. I'm talking black coffee. If you want to put something in it, if you don't like the taste of black coffee, you could put a little bit of heavy cream in there, or the fattiest milk or cream that they have at the place, or buy heavy cream for at home. You can put a little coconut oil or MCT oil in there. I do that myself. I view coffee as sort of a cognitive enhancer. So brain boost, first thing in the morning, and I add the MCT oil, and cinnamon. I like cinnamon flavor, so I put that in my coffee. So when I'm talking about coffee as a superfood, I'm talking about black coffee, or sort of minimal things in it, not 1,500 calorie super bomb that many people do. So, and just think about it too, when you go to one of these I won't mention any brands, but you know what I'm talking about. You go to these places and get things. When you order just a black coffee, like, you get served right away. You don't have to wait 10 minutes for your order to be made, right? So then you can move on with your day and do other things, right? So,
that's
anyway,
right.
So are we good for time, Julie?
Actually, it's probably good to just cut this one off now and then roll into part 3.
Okay, sounds good. So,
so where can they find you, Deepak? So first off, thank you so much. You're always I love that you said about the salt, because that's a huge myth that people they're just I can't, I just can't eat salt. And then, like you said, everybody's so individual and it's so nuanced. And then also about the diet soda and about the coffee. That's so good. So thank you. And where can people find you?
Let me just go back to the salt for a second. So, if people have high blood pressure, or, these type of things, and their doctor's going to tell them about the salt, yes, you do have to manage that. But again, what's the root cause? It's not the salt. There's something down the road, down the chain, that's causing your high blood pressure. So if somebody has that concern, I'm not going to delve into it now, but if you listen to part 1, I kind of get into some of those factors that would have led to your high blood pressure in the first place. So, everythings interrelated, many of these topics. So thank you again. Where people can find me, my website, Deepak Saini Health, DeepakSaini health.com. My YouTube channel is the same. And then, I can be found on Twitter and Facebook, etc. Twitter's Saini Health. And so many places, or just hit me up. And if you want to talk about any of these topics in more depth, or leave some comments if you have questions, I'll be happy to answer them. I'll check later. So that's where people can find me.
Thank you, Deepak. Always a pleasure. I appreciate you.
Appreciate you. Thank you. Gratitude.
Oh, we need to do the boom.
Oh, right.
All right. Thank you, Deepak.